Hey you, welcome to or welcome back to Motivation Maven, where we focus on motivation and inspiration to prepare for the week ahead. I'm Keisha, your host, and I'm thrilled that you tuned in. So, as always, y'all, it is early in the morning. We got places to go, things to do. So, let's just jump right in, shall we? So, if you are tuning in and it's been a while, it's been 3 weeks, exactly 3 weeks since I've been here at the mic with all of you. And I have to tell you, when I think about the last 3 weeks, all I can think of is that I was Mondayed. And you may be like, well, what exactly does that mean? Well, I had the same question because I've realized you should never use words if you don't actually know what they mean. So I actually looked this up, and it turns out there are many definitions of being mundane or mundaying or just whatever configuration you could think of the word Monday. It is out there. And specifically, I landed on the Urban Dictionary. Now, I'm not sure if you frequent this dictionary often. I know I don't. But I've learned a couple things. One, this dictionary is written by, well, you and me. Anybody can go in, write a word, create a definition, and an example of what it is. So that should tell you right there how credible this dictionary really is. But what really stood out to me is one, what I am thinking mundane means is not what many other people think it means. And one, it's also a little negative. So I'm only going to share two with you because I don't like to focus on negativity because, well, it's motivation and inspiration that's counterproductive, right? But I am going to explain to you what being mundane means, the new definition that I submitted, and then we'll just go on from there and you make your own judgment. So I said I was mundane for the last 3 weeks, right? One of the definitions that immediately stood out to me was mundane, and it says the following. It's the act of struggling to get through the working day without putting in an ounce of work. Mundane is a complex activity including coffee, internet, and a theatrical element pertaining to work whenever people walk past. I was totally mundane all day. And then the next definition that stood out to me was just simply the word Monday. And it starts off by saying, it's the day everybody hates to have to put up with. Okay, like I said, those aren't the most positive things in the world, but I hate to say this, and let's be real. We've all had a Monday where we just felt like, well, I don't want to put up with today. But some of us, if you want to be honest here, have also had days where they were mundane, where they got home and they were like, I did nothing today. You were part of that theatrical element, pretending to work all day. Now, I personally have grown from that, and I hope you have as well. But the reality is we're people, and Mondays are not that easy. I mean, let's think about it. If you just Google or just search, a basic search, just right now, there are thousands of hashtag Monday quotes. Monday is a day that we all just feel like we just got to dive in and just get some motivation and inspiration. Hence, we're here right now on a Monday. So this is the definition that I submitted to the Urban Dictionary, and we'll see in a couple days if they actually accept it or not. Now, for you English majors, don't go to this dictionary. It is going to stress you out. So I titled it as mundane. I might end up changing it to a Monday day, but we'll see. As of right now, the definition is experiencing a day where nothing seems to go as planned and feeling like your plans have been completely derailed. Example, yesterday was completely mundane. I woke up late, spilled coffee on my shirt, and missed an important meeting because my car broke down. It felt like everything that could go wrong did, and my entire day was thrown off track. That, people, is what I think being mundane is. When things just kind of derail and they don't go as expected. That was my last 3 weeks. And the whole point of preventive mental health is preparing ourselves because life is going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it's about preparing yourself so that when life happens, you can bounce back. And I'm going to tell you right now, bouncing back looks different for me and it looks different for you. But the reality is we can't just stay in a state of confusion. We have to find a way to push ourselves forward. For me, it took 3 weeks. 3 weeks to get it back together. 3 weeks to make it back to this microphone, which I always miss, which is really interesting. And you may be thinking, well, I mean, don't you just record these things like on some random day and just say that you recorded on Monday? No, I don't. So for y'all that are watching the video, like gonna do what the influencers do, it's right now it says 5:04. Y'all, I wake up at 4:30. I twist a turn around 4 a.m. and then I get to my microphone and then the mad dash sprint of a Monday morning happens, but I'm here with you. This is my slow period before the day just takes off, right? There is something about making it to this microphone on an actual Monday that just feels good. So I'm here with all the craziness of a Monday and being Mondayed. But, we made it. So you may be wondering, okay, well, if this is all about motivation and inspiration, is this an excuse? No, it's not. It's actually the core of our discussion today. What I want to talk about is automatic thoughts. Automatic thoughts. Automatic thoughts are defined as thoughts that just kind of pop in your mind that are negative and untrue. And the reality is, we have automatic thoughts all day long. In fact, we have thousands of thoughts throughout the day. But I have a feeling that, we tend to have these subconscious thoughts. We ponder and focus on these negative thoughts and these thoughts that are untrue, but we don't pay attention to them enough to recognize what they are. So in a few weeks, or maybe a couple days, we'll see, I'm going to do a deep dive on what automatic thoughts truly are. But the reason why this was important to me is that I've realized, y'all, I've been doing this now for like over 3 years. We've changed the name here, but I've been at this microphone, and I can tell you right now that in the past, if I missed a day, it would totally derail my week. I'd have all these thoughts that pop in my mind. You're a failure. You can't do this. You'll never have a full-time podcast. And all of these thoughts pop in my mind. I mean, I don't have one now, but I will one day. Because, there's this thing that I have called a job that I actually like, though. There's all of these things that are going on, and we just think all these negative thoughts. As soon as we don't do something perfect, we start to derail ourselves. We start to break ourselves down. But we don't even realize what we're saying to ourselves. I like to think of it as sitting in a rowboat. If you're sitting in a rowboat, and all of these negative thoughts, these automatic thoughts are popping in your head. Every time they come in, it's like a gallon of water is being thrown into that rowboat, and you start to sink. But if you say one positive thought to yourself, that's only one bucket of water out of that rowboat after you just put all of those extra buckets in. You're still going to be sinking. You can't say one positive thing and like 30, 40, 50 negative things and think that's going to balance itself out. It's not going to. You're going to keep sinking. So it is up to us to recognize what automatic thoughts are. Again, automatic thoughts are negative and they're not true. And it's up to us to be able to recognize them. Why do we need to recognize it? Because if we don't recognize the problem, we can't do anything about it. So when you recognize that, wait a minute, I just said something about myself that's not true. And the reality is you might have to ask yourselves some clarifying questions. And yes, this is all happening in your mind. It's all happening in your mind. You have to do some self-reflection, some soul-seeking, some investigation on the thought that I just said. Is it accurate? Have you ever walked in a room, had a conversation with somebody, left and was like, they don't even like me? How do you know that? How do you know that? I mean, there might be some signs that are legitimate, that person may not like you. Or let's say you did a presentation at work and like, I bombed that. But everybody's telling you, oh my gosh, you did so good. And you're like, no, I didn't. They're just having pity on me. I didn't do that well. How do you know that? How do you know that? You don't know. You have your personal thoughts. That doesn't mean they're accurate. You may not have met the expectation that you had, but that doesn't mean that you totally bombed the presentation. It's just identifying what those thoughts are so you could do something about them. But the reality is it takes some practice. It's not something that just happens overnight. And that is why I always say here that you can learn from any situation and find motivation and inspiration. Because what I took out of the last 3 weeks is that I found growth. I found growth. I think there's these moments in life where things happen that may feel very much like something that has happened in the past. And then you're able to compare how you handled those situations. And in this one, I found that I have grown. I'm not going to sit here and derail myself. I'm not going to sit here and say anything negative. What I'm going to do is make it. I'm going to make it to the microphone and just keep pressing forward. Because the reality is, no one is expecting perfection but me here. This is my passion project. This is something that I love to do. But no one is setting this expectation on me. And the reality is, I have a feeling that there is something that you are holding yourself to, and that you're the only one holding you to that standard. You're the only one holding you to that standard. If you aim for perfection, you're never going to make that, because that should not be your aim. Your aim should always be to do your very best. To just do your very best. And in this season of life, as a mother of 3 boys, as a mother who is a basketball mom, and I am at tournaments here and there, I have 4-year-olds who are they're 4-year-olds, okay? They need mommy and they want mommy all the time. They are leaning on me. I am holding them. I am feeding them. Listen, when mommy walks in the room, they don't know how to do anything for themselves. It's just the season we're in. Mommy, I need help eating my food and getting dressed. They're totally independent until I walk into the room. That's the season I'm in. That is totally okay. Because those moments, once they go, they go. They don't come back. They don't come back. Don't hold yourself to a standard that is unrealistic and unattainable. Have grace with yourself. Every single time you work towards your personal goal, you're getting better. And we're going to go at your pace. I'm going at my pace. You know, we started off here as Keisha's house. We're now Preventive Mental Health. There's a lot going on. There's a lot changing. There's a lot of growth and development going on behind the scenes that I'm able to bring forward at my pace. And that is totally okay. It's totally okay. So what is the quote for this week? All right, it's the following. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. We talked about what automatic thoughts are. Again, I'm going to do a deeper dive later in the week. But ultimately, all you need to know at this point is automatic thoughts are negative and they're untrue. If something you say to yourself is negative, it's an automatic thought. If there's something that you say to yourself that is not true, that just pops in your mind, it's an automatic thought. And it's recognizing what those are so you can combat them and do something about it. It says the happiness of your life. Again, think of that rowboat. If you keep bringing negativity in your life day in, day out, it starts to weigh you down. It starts to weigh you down, and those negative thoughts that just popped into your mind, I mean, as soon as they came into your mind, you can get them removed just as quickly. But what do we normally do? It pops in our mind, and then now it's just stuck there. It hits the center stage. And we start to spiral down. And we take it as, I did awful in that presentation. My goodness, it's going to affect my job. My colleagues don't see that I can do my job well. People are going to think that I'm inefficient. Like, we just keep adding on and piling on. And y'all, none of it's true. None of it's true. And the reality is, if some parts of it are, so, you have zero control over somebody else's opinion of you. Zero control. You could do your best. That's all we can do. And if somebody has a negative view on us, that's a them problem. It's not a you problem. There's nothing you can do about that. Because the reality is, there are automatic thoughts that are popping in their mind as well. It's happening all day. We're not Sims characters. We don't see thought bubbles popping up on the top of our heads. We have no idea what's going on in somebody's mind. We have no clue. So yeah, all right, let's say something is true. After you decide to do some research and you dive into it and you really think it through, and you're like, okay, yeah, people may think that about me. That's their problem. It's not your problem. But this takes time. It's so much easier said than done. So the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Step 1, you now know what automatic thoughts are. They're negative and they're untrue. Step 2, start to identify them. That's all I want you to do for the next couple of days. Just acknowledge that the thought that just popped in your head may potentially be an automatic thought. And once you start to catch on to them, number 3, start to push back. Start to do some investigation. The reality is you say things to yourself that you would never say to somebody you love. You say things to yourself that you would never say to someone you dislike. We are not kind to ourselves. We're just not. Because we're holding ourselves to a standard that is unrealistic, unattainable, and we're not just focusing on just doing our very best. Because failure is a part of our development. I know nobody wants to hear that, but it's true. For us to grow, sometimes we're going to fail. And I know everyone, thinks of the word failure as just this horrible thing, and it just cannot happen. How can that be? How can that be? I think of when my kids were learning to crawl. In fact, let's go back further. When my kids were learning to roll over, we all had these developmental stages. We had to learn how to roll over. We had to learn how to lift our head. We had to learn how to creep and crawl and then walk and then run. And you know what happened? We fell down over and over again. We held on to things and people for dear life because we didn't want to fall. We can't remember it, but I can tell you right now, when a baby tries to learn how to roll over, it takes work. They are straining for a task that now in our lives, really think about it. This morning when your alarm went off, didn't you roll over? Did you even say, you know what? There was a time that I couldn't do this. No, we just do it automatically. Every single thing that you truly want to do, if you just do your very best at your pace, you'll make it. And at some point, it's going to feel like it's just second nature. I have twin boys. And what's interesting is one rolled over a month before the other. One crawled a month before the other. One walked a month before the other. You guessed it, one ran a month before the other. They both can roll over, crawl, walk, and run right now. Both of them. But they both got to those milestones at different times. Don't get so caught up in other people making it to a milestone that you're trying to get to, and if they get to it before you do, it's fine. I know it doesn't feel fine in the moment. It feels defeating. It feels frustrating. You know what's going to happen? It's those automatic thoughts are going to start popping in your mind. But if we don't acknowledge the thoughts, do something about those thoughts, the 30-day delay, we may sabotage ourselves, and it now takes a year because we got caught up in our minds. We stopped moving forward. We lost our momentum. Yeah, people are going to make it some places before you do. It's fine. It's It's fine, but we have to get comfortable with moving at our own pace. And we need to get comfortable getting there without tearing ourselves down. So the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. This week, the challenge is recognize your thoughts. And I'm not saying that you can only say happy, peppy, positive things to yourself. That's not reality. It's not reality. At least this week, be aware. Because that's the first step. Be aware. And then recognize that if you can turn those automatic thoughts to something positive or at least neutral, you're winning. You're winning. Hey, I have learned I'm not going to sit here and make a promise and apologize and be like, oh my gosh, I wasn't here. What I'm going to do is show up as my very best. Showing up as my very best. And I hope you can say the same. So this week, acknowledge automatic thoughts, challenge those thoughts, and do your best. Remember, you're worthy of the life that you want to live. Till next time.